Hey everyone, this is Mike, and I'm here with Isaac,
Hey,
and we're back. Happy New Year to everybody who's watching this. We wait for a little bit during the holiday season. Need to some time to take a break and refresh, but now we're here to talk about some video games. More specifically, we're here to talk about a topic that I believe is going to be very big going into this year
and beyond.
and beyond because it's a topic that I believe that can't be ignored by anyone who enjoys the medium of gaming at this point, and it's very much the topic of like AI, use of AI in the gaming space, whether it is through the development side, through the gameplay side of things.
And even the hardware side of things too, that are even
Yeah, it
moving in, and how it's
is.
starting to take an impact to even in the hardware
Yeah, I mean
division
it's
and stuff.
very very huge. Now, the whole reason why I want to start this topic is because the past several weeks, several games that were at two specific game awards, the TGAs, the Game Awards, and the Indie Game Awards, had some controversy, quote unquote, behind it. I guess the bigger one would be Claire Obscure, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which absolutely swept the TGAs last month. Like I believe it picked up 9 awards. It was obvious. It was good, obvious to everybody that that game was going to do very well at the awards, and it also picked up Game of the Year at the Indie Game Awards. But it has recently been discovered that Clair Obscur Expedition 33 used a little bit of generative AI in the development process of the game. Not even in the final build of the game, but during the development process, some of, I believe, some textures, it was like some newspaper textures, you were created using generative AI, and apparently that was enough um to basically
Be disqualified.
disqualified for the Indie Game Awards for Game of the Year, and they gave it to some other game. I don't even remember the name of the other game, but I think it was Blueprints or something like that. Not like it really matters. The point here is that the game lost its award due to that discovery, and it was also recently like said by the head of Larian Studios, the guys that are behind Baldur's Gate 3 in the upcoming Divinity game, that they also use generative AI, or at least allow the use of generative AI during the creative process for the artists. And they say that by the final build of the game, that the no generative AI is used, but still that's enough to set the internet ablaze, saying, "Well, how could you do this? You shouldn't use AI. Period. This sucks. You guys are terrible." Blah 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 blah. And there's a lot I really have to say about that. But before we get into it, if you like what we do here, please rate, comment, and subscribe. Now, again, starting off with the whole situation with Larry Studios. Again, it's been several weeks since this happened, but an article here by Tech Dirt, Larian Studios, the latest to face a backlash over the use of AI in games. Now it basically stated that who's the name of the, I just need to check that who the heck is the name of, okay. Okay, Sven Vickel. Oh God, I can't. I can't. I don't even can pronounce that name. But recently made a statement to try and explain the studio's stance on more detail to make clear the controversial tech isn't being used to cut jobs. Now, any machine learning tool used well is addictive to a creative team, or individual workflow, but it's not a replacement to their skill or their craft. He was responding to a backlash that arose during a Bloomberg interview that reported that Larian Studios was moving forward with Gen AI despite some internal concerns among staff. Vickle made it clear that tech was only being used for other things like placeholder text, PowerPoint presentations, and early concept art and experiments, and none of the generative AI would be included in the final product. Now, as I've always stated in a few of these like discussions, that I'm okay with generative AI as a tool. I don't agree with it when it comes to actually replacing people because again, I just feel like the technology for I'm sorry, generative AI really isn't suitable for actually replacing people. It is not the magic make anything you want button that a lot of people think it
It's not the
is.
magic bullet.
It is not. It absolutely is not. And a lot of people are definitely estimating its value. And the way I see it, I really feel like if people actually understood how this technology in its current form actually works, a lot of people would not be raising their torches and pitchforks against it. And I really do encourage a lot of people to try like some form of like generative AI, whether it is like for like, queries or, generating like textures or for programming. I encourage anyone to actually make use of it, latest models and whatnot, just so you can see just how useless it is in the hands of most people. Because if you try to get it to really do whatever you think you want it can do, it's going to be useless in that 90% of people's hands, because like generating prompts, generating like code, generating like actual textures, it's always going to shoot 90% of the time it's going to shoot out some gobbledygook that's not what you want it to be. And when it's going to take like a lot of messing with in order for it to get even remotely close to what you want. And that's where you actually still have to have proper programmers and artists and creative people to actually make that generative way I actually work for you. And that's why it's you're still gonna definitely need human input in order to make this stuff work. So that's just the my like initial like thoughts on the stuff like that, and just kind of curious.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything you said. And again, it's just another tool to be added to the toolbox, right? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't replace like same again. We've talked about this through multiple other videos that we did. You know, the introduction of Photoshop, Audition when Quark also introduced video editing graphic software. It was just simply another tool. It never made people who are never good at art to be better artists. That was never
Mm-hmm.
the idea of it back of the day. So yeah, with everything you said, I think and this is just going to be the future of things in order for moving development. And I also made the argument, the same way that a big studio, AAA studio, that's clearly trying to push to use more AI into their productivity, the same should be allowed for smaller studios that want to be able to get their work out, should have that same opportunity and should be looked down upon, apparently. Again, it's already moving into that process. The issue right now, I think, in terms of how artificial intelligence has been brought up, isn't the fact that it's used as a tool. It's unfortunately, like you said, the big companies like Amazon and Microsoft and Meta right now have made it so clear, and maybe this is more help with the news, with the
Mm-hmm.
current job layoffs, and how
Yeah.
every job layoff is being talked about, how they're using artificial intelligence to replace entry level workers and certain management levels, which, let's be honest, management hasn't always been great, but being replaced with more of the creative side of workers. I think that's really where AI gets the biggest end of the shaft of being a tool, and it's being looked down upon because you're hearing about all those companies replacing the human workforce, which also has also
Mm-hmm.
been brought up. I think Klarna also tried to do that for a little bit, and it backfired ridiculously when they tried to replace all the workers with artificial intelligence, and to the point
Yeah.
that they had to walk that back and hire human people
Yeah.
again to check up on AI. If you leave something on a mug, it's going to do crazy stuff that you don't want it to do. Like you just said, it's just as much of an art and a practice to understand how that tool works to get what you want. And even when you do get what you want, it still needs refinement That's where the artist still come in. Like you said, that's when the program is still coming. That's when the coders still come in. So the perception of AI is only going to continue to get worse is because these companies that continue to flaunt that towards normal people or try to force it into people's hands are going to not use it in the best possible way. You know,
Yeah.
it's again going back to the whole tool thing. If it's putting it in the hands of an artist, I think an artist can do some amazing things with it in terms of helping their productivity move forward, be able to get their work out even quicker and faster. You know, it cuts down on the ability that you have to wait for a couple of years. Now they can be able to get that game out in a year or maybe in six months, depending on depending on the size of the team, the workforce, and how things move.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest issue that I worried about the most, and I even talked about this a couple of years ago when it came to Nintendo and how Nintendo was starting to look into it a little bit more, is the worry is that financial people, the business side of things, think that they can be artists now
Yeah.
and use that to replace all the artists, all the creative
Mm-hmm.
people on the side and believe, oh, we have artificial intelligence now. Oh, I can make a Mario game now, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
going to be the case anymore. That's what you're starting to see on the top end, the more
Mm-hmm.
business side of things right now, cutting down all the studios and moving everything around. That's the biggest worry that I have, and that's why I think artificial intelligence is getting the bad rap that it's getting at this point in
Yeah,
time.
I mean, it sucks because when it comes to a lot of like businesses, especially big business, when they see something that they could use to try to save money, they
Yep.
almost never go back on it, like ever until like something forces them to. And I genuinely do feel like a lot of these companies,
When it's
again,
actually losing the money.
exactly, when I genuinely feel like a lot of these companies are definitely going to lose out of a lot of money trying to chase the AI dragon. And like I've been discussing with a few friends here and there, I'm starting to believe that yeah, there's gonna be the AI, there's gonna be the AI quote unquote bubble is going to burst, but I don't think it's gonna burst in the way that a lot of people think it's gonna burst. It's gonna be very similar to the .com bubble
Mm.
during of the 2000s, where
Yep.
everybody was trying to stake
Chase
their claim
and
on the internet.
.com gold, man. Yep.
Yeah, but I think that's what's gonna happen is that a lot of companies who are overvaluing this technology are going to crash and burn trying to chase that dragon, and a few companies will remain that actually understand the limitations of AI are going to actually be able to use it effectively and are not going to fire every single person just to make use of it. They're still going to keep a lot of people around in order to make the actually leverage the technology and make it work. And I think that's basically what's going to happen in the future. It's because there's no way that this technology is just going to be like ignored because like a few companies fail and stuff like that. It's not like crypto where it's heavily associated with like scams and speculative like currency. It's not like NFTs that only ever made sense in theory. Like this technology is actually practical when used properly.
And it's not
So
even just in video games too. It's going to be used in other forms of life too,
yeah,
like
like
in
like I said,
business, in the medical
medical.
field right now, like where they're using artificial intelligence to be able to help detect symptoms or diseases before they
Mm-hmm.
even start. Like
Yeah,
it's already being used, especially in the rest of the world. Everybody's trying to jump it. It's not even just in the United States.
yeah,
Everybody's in that race too right now
yeah.
in the
And I think
moment.
the biggest like country in that race right now is obviously China,
Yeah,
and
China's
it's
going to be in it.
why
Russia's already been trying to
like
push for
slowly,
it
yeah, there's
slowly, but they're
slowly,
trying to be in it.
but the
Japan's going to be in it. The
obviously.
UK is also trying to look into it right now. So yeah, it's already here. Again, the idea
Well,
is,
I'm about to say UK is in it, but for all the wrong reasons. But
but whatever. But at the end of the day, they're still in it. So like everybody's going to use it in some form of way,
hmm
like you said. But again, going back to game, but Also, another issue right now, what's killing it is it's also hurting the hardware market right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, I mean, it was already bad as it is after 2020, where it seems like now prices are starting to slowly get back to where they were in terms of graphic cards and RAM. Hell, even now, graphic cards are starting to shoot right back up again because, like I said, everybody's trying to get into the AI race. RAM for the longest period of time was always low. It's always cheap, and I guess we've
Mm-hmm.
always took that for granted because you could
Mm-hmm.
always buy a RAM stick for like under like $100.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore. It's like
Yeah.
skyhunted 300%. So now you can't
Yeah.
even get good RAM anymore at these days because everybody's trying to jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, just like the price of RAM basically is the same price as a GPU, and
That's
and GPU
ridiculous.
and GPU prices are even skyrocketing as well. So that you're gonna have to pay 300 for that, and obviously that's upsetting a ton of people, and I understandably. And obviously, and people are always also saying how much it affects the environment with these AI data centers
Oh
using a
yeah.
lot of water in order to keep these computers cooled down and stuff like that. It was just like, uh, yeah, I get the sentiment there. At the same time, though, I think it's kind of hilarious. For the past several years, people keep saying that we were in this huge climate crisis about how by 2030 the world's gonna be like underwater, but apparently not so much now that we're using
So
so much
it's
water
only
to
2026. It's only 2026. We still
like
got time.
you know what I'm yeah, you know where
We
I'm
still
getting
got
at.
time to be Atlantis is not far off. But
but yeah, people are saying that like the whole situation with RAM prices and GPU prices won't go down until 2027 or even 2028. And obviously, people don't want to wait that long to be able to purchase consumer grade products at a reasonable price again. So yeah, people are going to be absolutely pissed off about AI for the time being. I mean, I've gone this long without going back to the whole situation regarding Expedition 33 losing its award from the indie game from the indie game like award show. I just want to quickly say that I don't think it's fair for them to take away their award for something that was initially a placeholder. Because again, as a tool, just wanting something to quickly throw up in your test build of the game shouldn't be considered a crime to people. And I
uh,
know that the dev studio
mhm.
behind the game started to like openly state that they don't support it as a huge method of game development, and that really just made them look even worse because it had an admission of guilt. Really should just kind of own up to it that they used it during the creative process, and obviously vow not to use it again. Because when you kind of just come out and say these stuff like that, like you're admitting some kind of guilt, it just kind of makes you look even worse. Because overall, like Clair Obscur is still a great game in the eyes of many, and just because they use that one little thing, I don't think it should detract from what was actually achieved with that game, because it did have some art was basically 90% of its game, and that was created by actual real artists. The voice acting obviously was phenomenal with a lot of the like star
Mhm.
talent they got for the game. And the actual gameplay was still excellent. So I don't think that all of that should just be thrown out the window just because of this little AI thing. It's absurd that people want to go this far to demonize this game just because of this technology that people are currently at odds with. And there's another thing I want to say is that when it comes to the people that are anti AI, there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to want to support AI solely out of principle, and that's your choice. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to support anything you don't want as a consumer. So, yeah, that's fine. And if also you want companies to disclose when generative AI is being used, whether it's in the development process or in the final game itself, that's also fine. again, as a consumer, that if that's your prerogative. You want to know these things. You want to have your right to know these things. That's absolutely fine. Where I draw the line is when you start attacking people, berating people, trying to ostracize people from the industry. That's when you start to become modern day vegans. And if you understand how the public treats modern day vegans, how they need to let everybody know how much they don't like eating meat or using animal products and are absolutely like annoying and pretentious and obnoxious about it. That's when like anti-AI people are basically going to become modern day vegans at this point. And if you keep this kind of like behavior up, you're basically going to start getting a lot of people to start supporting this stuff out of spite. Obviously, that's the opposite of what people like, what anti-AI people want. So, like, I I just urge people to please be respectful when it comes to this topic, because you're not doing yourself any favors with this kind of behavior, man. Like please.
Nah.
What? What do you mean, nah?
No, that's not happening.
I mean, I know that
It's complete opposite of what you just said.
It's well,
Complete opposite.
obviously, like, people are gonna people, but like I'm just giving people a fair warning that it's already like a lot of people are already willing to support generative AI when it comes to
just
like,
out of spite.
Especially when it comes to
understanding in principle.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when it comes to like game localization or just localization when it comes to like video games and anime and stuff like that. Especially since for many years localizers have been inserting their own funny little text and like their own like ideals into their work when it should just be doing like a proper translation. Again, the whole anime manga like localization scene is rife with this kind of behavior, and you have so many people saying, I don't mind generative AI being used in this field if it gets rid of these obnoxious localizers. And exactly, it's just like you're gonna get people to support this stuff out of spite, and spite is you people don't have any idea how powerful spite can be when it comes to this sort of stuff. Like, it's just like,
and there's a lot of even concerns about it too. Like, I mean, and it has a lot of the issues. Like you've seen a lot of the AI slop out there that's being produced
obviously.
The biggest concern about a lot of that slop is that even older generations of people that again they're not previous of the technology will believe a lot of it. Even and what's even concerning is worse is even when you tell them it's fake, it's like I don't care. It was impactful. It was impactful to me. I enjoy it. So you also have that wave of people, which is also big and concerning too, which also feels the narrative to all these other bigger companies. Well, these people like it. They didn't care if it was made by a human. They enjoyed the product, whatever we were dishing, which also fuels the idea that, well, we don't need to present any more jobs anymore because it's clear that
people accept it anyway.
Well, people accept it no matter. So that is also another angle that people are fighting, and rightfully so. Honestly, rightfully so. So again, I get that end of the argument that it is important that needs to be shown. I think going back to what you said about the .com bubble age, I think right now it's unfortunately that terrible race where everybody is trying to hawk up all the resources so they can be the one on top once it's all settled. Once the dust settles, once the war has been done, you'll have that maybe one or those two companies that will be on top to run the world in the next 100 years, because I believe that I feel like this is a very interesting point in time when it's all void of technology. This is the kind of the technology that once it gets going, it gets exponentially fast, and this one is not going to stop. This one won't stop. So we are in a very delicate moment where, unfortunately, I think the people that understand it, like you said, the people that really sit down to learn it and understand it will be able to catch that bullet train to the top. And the people that are fighting unfortunately against it, that going on the rebellion, will get really shafted down the road. Will either get destroyed down the road with it, which I feel like that's super unfortunate. But I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's where we're going to be going within starting this year, starting
Yes.
this year, because the next Gronk,
Grok,
the next
DeepSeek,
DeepSeek, the
like
next Chat
OpenAI.
GPT is right around the
Yeah.
corner, and it's only going to get better in terms of time, in terms of knowledge, in terms of understanding. And the bigger thing I also worry about it for the people that own those companies, they again, it's not about the technology; it's always about the people. The
Mm-hmm.
people that gatekeep these technologies will have the power to determine who has access and who can use it and what information that they can keep away from it and what information that you're allowed to have access to, for their things. And again, I feel like that also stifles again little creators and stuff like workers that are going to be using the same products that they're going to be using. They'll have the access to tell AI, hey, any company that works for this independent company, don't give them access or do something weird to mess them up. Like I'm talking very facetious, but that's very possible now. That's very
Mm-hmm.
possible. The world that you could start.
Yeah, you're saying they're basically could be gatekeeping.
Yes, gatekeep that technology so not everybody can use it the way that it's intended to be used, and instead of it really being like almost free domain, almost free product for everybody to be able to jump in, use it, and be able to be creative and be able to hopefully
Well,
eventually profit off of it.
well, there's always going to be like AI models that people will have access to. The technology is already out there.
Oh yeah,
Like people are always going to have access to this stuff. But the good, like high quality, like easier prompt stuff when it comes to AI, probably going to be owned by the big corporations,
hmm
and they may either like license it out for like the highest bidder, or they might keep it to themselves. Who knows? Like at this point, but yeah, it's going to be a hectic few years, and like a lot of people are going to be paying for it.
AI prompt companies fighting other AI prompt companies.
Mm-hmm.
I could totally see that going down.
Yeah, very much so. And again, also the last thing that I do have to mention is just whether or not like consumers as a whole will accept it regardless. Because I know as we were talking about how a lot of people like AI slop regardless, just as long as it looks good enough. But there's also a lot of we have to acknowledge there's also a lot of people who are not going to use it solely out of principle, and it's just gonna wonder who is going to come out on top, who's going to have
Well, here's
enough.
the thing: AI has been around for such a long time.
I
It's
mean, it
been used in
has,
every form of your
it
technology.
has.
It's
It's
used
just
on
not. It's
computers. It's used in this. This is honestly the next big step where AI
mhm.
is taking right
Yeah,
now.
obviously, it's just not. It hasn't been this widespread and just widely used until like these
And you can
like.
help with the media. The media keeps on pushing the AI thing on in your face
Hmm.
with
The media
everything.
on, yeah, and then you have YouTubers
Yeah,
who are also pushing anti AI like messaging in your face. So it really is going to come down to one. It's going to come down to one side giving in, because obviously this back and forth can't last forever. Eventually one side of the debate is going to have to give in to the other side, and whether or not um companies decide to just drop AI altogether, which I really don't think, highly unlikely, or just the general public just accepts AI for what it is and just learns to live with it.
I think it just comes down to time. I
Hmm.
think it really just comes to time. Again, I think until people really, like you said, and you brought out a great example. If people sit down and take a time just to learn how to use any of those prompts, just to just play around with the prompts and try to create something, try to create a game, try to use any of the prompts, you're going to see that it's not as easy as you would think in your mind you would in your head. Like you
Hmm.
said, it still is going to need those people to be able to draw and write and have a creative thought process in the journey of creating work and art. And again, all these companies will be using it. Like I said, all these big game companies have already mentioned that they're going to use it in some form of their game development. You can't sit down and hide it. And again, that should not be barred for like companies that made Expedition 33 to be able to use it in their game development too. I think at the end of the day, um, it, in the hands of crafty people, they are going to be able to create amazing work, amazing game works, amazing experiences. But that's all has to be in the hands of very crafty people that already have a knowledge of art, that already have the knowledge of graphic design, that already have the knowledge of composition and direction and all these basic tools that you learn from years and years of experience. Like
Mm-hmm.
those guys will just expand their creativity even more versus the bad actors,
Yeah,
the millions and millions of bad actors out
yeah,
there at the moment.
exactly. I mean, I've said this multiple times, but Hung Tae Kim, who's the CEO of Shift Up, makers of Stellar Blade and Nikkei Goddess of Victory, he is a world class artist, and he openly uses AI with his art flow, and it looks just as good as if he were just making it all from scratch because you know, he had the AI model work on his artwork
And only
and
his work.
and only his work. He still needs to have his own like skills and input in order to make it absolutely perfect. He obviously goes back and fixes up all the inconsistency that comes from generative AI. And but because he's already a skilled artist, so it's not like you can just say, oh, he's not an artist anymore because he's using AI. He doesn't have to prove to anybody that he can still do artwork. And I really feel like people who are truly skilled and creative will be able to use AI in this sort of way in order to make full full creative use of it rather than somebody who's just trying to use random prompts to create what they want.
Mhm.
And that's the way I feel. There's a lot we could pretty much spend like hours talking about this, but I feel like we basically went over the 30-minute mark, so I think it's best that we wrap it up here. So, what do you think? What do you think about AI in its current state? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you indifferent to it?
Oh no, a lot of people hate it.
Obviously, what's
It's not about whether you love it or not.
well,
I think
obviously,
it's
I figured what I
a lot
would
of people
say.
hate it.
In fact, I would say it's probably like 2 or 3 to 1 that people dislike AI over liking AI or just indifferent to AI. But yeah, or at the very least, well, it's hard to say because it's a loud.
I think this is what again going back to what we suggest for the people out there that are very anti AI about this. I would suggest that you take your time to use it. Try to create something, anything from you, anything right now, and just learn about the tech. I think people should sit down and be able to learn about the tech, and then once you feel like okay, maybe I was too harsh, or after you done used it and you're still not cool about it, that's fine. But at
Mm-hmm.
least understand what's going on. I think that's a big one of the bigger issues right now that everybody's just angry because they hear word AI, like everything in today's world,
Mm-hmm.
without actually doing any kind of research on themselves to understand, okay, is it really the problem or is just people who are
Mm-hmm.
have malicious intent to
Mm-hmm.
just do bad crap with it? Like
Yes.
that's the problem. Like so take your time to actually use it for a little bit, understand it a little bit, do your research before it, and then make up your mind. And if you have a change of heart, great. If you still hate it, also great. But just do your time and take your research. I think that's something we should suggest.
Exactly. But anyway, if you like what we do here, we're gonna wrap this up again. Sorry. If you like what we do here, please rate, comment, and subscribe. I'm Mike with Isaac, and we are saying peace.